This is the Louie T Network.
I'm ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Overtime! So we head to overtime.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. Houston Texans on the road taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Playoff implications for both teams. With a win, the Ravens get back into the playoff picture in terms of if the playoffs started today, ... Ravens would be in as the 6th and final seed in the AFC. Meanwhile, for the Texans, they're just looking to stay alive in the hunt. And even a win here would put them on the outside looking in, but still close enough to be dangerous in the AFC South race. But I think the Jaguars and the Titans have separated themselves from the rest of that division. But at 5-6, 2 games out of first place, already having beat the Tennessee Titans, you got a shot. So there's that. But no one was expecting much of the Texans once they lost Deshaun Watson. And tonight, I thought they were extremely competitive, came out with a nice start to the game, the 90-yard touchdown march. They were a lot more competitive than I thought they were going to be, but at the end of the day, Nacho Man Tommy Savage did what I expected him to do, turn the football over in the most critical juncture of the football game. 2 turnovers from him, 3 if you count the fumble, but 2 interceptions thrown, another fumble, and just like the Rams game where he accounted for all of the turnovers for the Texans football team, he did it again, this time throwing a back-breaking pick at the end of the game to seal the fate of the Texans as they lose 23-16, fall to 4-7 on the season, and the Ravens improve to 6-5. And all of a sudden, the Baltimore Ravens are looking like a surefire thing in terms of that 6th and final seed in the AFC. Nothing is guaranteed. Again, there are a lot of teams right there. I mean, had they lost this game, they'd be on the outside looking in. And the Bills are right there at 6-5, waiting for the Ravens to slip up. You've got a number of teams sitting there at 5-6, waiting for the Ravens and or the Bills to slip up. And so it's not safe for the Ravens just yet. They've got to continue to win football games. They've got to continue to find a way to get it done. And so this was a big one. Can't afford to lose to the Texans if you want to make the postseason. Can't afford to lose to Tom Savage. Nacho Man Tommy Savage. Can't afford to drop one at the crib to him. So needed to get this one. And just like every Ravens game, it's not pretty. It never is when it's the Baltimore Ravens. But again, like they showed on Monday Night Football with John Harbaugh as the coach, it's always a win. Now 12-1 on any primetime setting, including Monday night, Thursday night, and, of course, Sunday Night Football. So he gets it done, man. Harbaugh finds a way to rally the troops, and they play their best brand of ball when the lights are their brightest and the stage is its biggest. And that's why I told you, there are 3 teams right now in the AFC that if you're one of the upper teams, i.e. Pittsburgh, New England, you should be afraid. And the Ravens are 1, the Jaguars are 2, and to me, you don't want to let the Chargers in this thing. They're the 3rd because they can affect the quarterback. They might have the best duo of pass rushers in this league right now currently in Ingram and Bosa, and so you don't want to let those guys in. So right now, the AFC, we've mocked it. We've talked about how bad it is, but it's starting to shape into form. It's starting to round into form. Right now, the AFC West is the redheaded stepchild of the AFC Conference. Right now, they're holding the entire conference down a little bit with their play, and we'll see what happens in that division. But Ravens, obviously, their offense stinks. It still stinks. It's going to stink. I talked about the Bears. I talked about the Bills as teams with no receivers to speak of, and the lack of production, and it is what it is. I've talked about that with the Bills. As a matter of fact, I talked about that with the Bills today, how benching Tyrod Taylor was a foolish mistake that may have cost them a game. That Chargers game was a very winnable game had Tyrod Taylor played. You bench him. Why? I don't know. You don't have any weapons. I don't know what you were expecting from Nathan Peterman. But the way they beat Kansas City, that they being the Bills, is how they're going to have to win because they don't have a ton of targets. Same thing can be said for the Baltimore Ravens. The way they won tonight, the way they've won all season long, it's how they're going to have to win games. Defense, running the football, few turnovers that they cause. They've got to stay relatively clean, got to take care of the football. Doesn't hurt if special teams chimes in with a fake punt like they did tonight, or a kickoff return like they did against the Bears for a touchdown. Doesn't hurt to have other elements of the game help chip in. You've got the best kicker in all of National Football League, so you know he's going to do his part. It doesn't hurt to have some extra chip-ins from some of the other portions of the football team, but you know everybody's got to pick up the offense because the offense isn't going to carry their own weight for the most part each and every single week. Defense is going to have to chip in with a turnover or two, maybe even score one. Special teams is going to have to do something unique, block a kick, fake a punt, run a kickoff back, run a punt back for a touchdown, something of that sort, set up a short field. You know, offense needs all the help it can get in Baltimore. But that being said, if they don't turn it over, steer clear of some penalties, they can play the field position game and make it tough on some teams. So they got a formula. It's not the prettiest, not the funnest to watch, okay? Not the most aesthetically pleasing, but it gets results. And as I've told you many a times, this is a results-based league. And it's getting results in Baltimore as they're 6-5 now with this 23-16 win over the Texans, which allows them to claim the 6th spot in the second wild card in the AFC at this current moment. I've talked all year long about the Ravens defense and how I said it's a shame that this defense is good enough to go to the playoffs, but this offense is going to hold it back. Well, they may just sneak in the back door with that defense and the offense as constituted. We'll see what happens. But in any event, thank you for joining me on this program. I'm your man, Louie T, of course, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. Changing the game over here. I want you to help us do that by simply hitting that subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie T Network. I've got a number of social media platforms right there in the upper corner of the screen. Scrolling. Also, there's Instagram that's not shown there. All of those social media platforms, the links to it can be found down in the description of this video and every single video that I do, along with how you can donate to the channel via Patreon or PayPal. Those two links that you see in front of you, down in the description below as well. If you can donate, please do donate to help further this channel along here on the Louie T Network. That being said, let's talk about the Ravens in this game and how they got the win. Got off to a slow start, especially defensively. I thought the Texans moved the ball well. DeAndre Hopkins is a load. He's a handful every single week. We talk about how good he is and what he means to the Texans football team. And there aren't many corners that can stop him. I thought the best corner in the league took a shot at him last week, and he still went out and had himself a solid game. Got in the end zone last week against Patrick Peterson. So he's tough to deal with, and he was tough to deal with tonight. And he made some plays on that first possession. Got the pass interference that set up the touchdown. And it was a slow start for the Ravens defensively. I thought the Texans were moving the football But they settled in, and after the initial blow that the Texans delivered, they delivered a few blows of their own, and they were able to force a turnover of Tom Savage. They were able to get the ground game going a little bit. A beautiful call on 4th and 1, and really what jump-started everything was the fake punt. And any John Harbaugh coach team is always on high alert for some kind of trickeration via special teams. Remember, John Harbaugh got his start in this league as a special teams coach. He was a special teams standout in Philadelphia as their special teams coordinator. So you've got to know that he's always willing, able to pull off some shenanigans on special teams. So you've always got to be wary of that, because that's his background. And he's always listening to the special teams coach and always ready to say, hey, man, you want to try it? Go right ahead. You know, he knows what it takes to execute on the special team side of things, and he's always willing to take a risk there when he thinks that the reward is greater than the risk itself. So great throw by Cook to Chris Moore, who I think needs more opportunities at the receiver position, but that's another discussion for another day. Bottom line is that was a big play, jump-started the Ravens offense. They also had a 4th and 1 call that I thought was beautifully executed. Fake dive pitch outside to a guy that I've been telling Ravens fans about for the longest time. And about a month ago, the Ravens finally realized, hey, he is our best running back. Maybe we do need to give Alex Collins the football more. And they've been paid off with huge dividends since giving him the football as their lead back. And now that was a great play. Got down. I'd like to see him not run into the back of his receiver who's stalk blocking down the field. In Bashad Perriman, I'd like to see him either run around him or cut inside of him, but not run over him. Okay? Like, he was running like a dude on ice that couldn't stop, change directions, or any of that stuff. Like, bruh, you see him blocking. Don't run up his back. Don't run him over. Either go on the outside of his block or cut inside on his block. But don't run over the guy that's blocking for you. Don't do that. But in any event, it did lead to a touchdown for the Ravens. And like I said, it jump-started their offense en route to 17 second-quarter points. And got tight in the second half. Yeah, they were up 20-16, and Ravens had the football, or Texas had the football, seemingly on the move. And Terrell Suggs, big play of the game, forces the fumble, gets that football out of there, recovered by the Ravens. That led to a field goal that extended the lead out to 7. And then once more, the defense rose to the occasion to put the clamps on this football game. Interception by Levine put this game away for the Ravens, and the defense stepped up, made the plays that needed to be made at the time they needed to be made in this game. And I didn't realize the Ravens hadn't given up a 250-yard passer. Some of that speaks to just the lack of quarterbacks that they faced throughout this season. They've seen a ton of backups. Nacho Man, Tommy Savage, a backup. Brett Hundley, a backup quarterback. They saw the Dolphins with Matt Moore at quarterback, shut them down on that Thursday night. They've seen quite a few garbage quarterbacks. They've played the Browns. They got the Bengals in week 1 when they had Ken Zampese as offensive coordinator, which was a mess. So they've had their fair share of duds at quarterback and some bad offensive football teams. So now that I think about it, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they've done that. But tonight, Nacho Man Tommy Savage did throw for over 250 yards. So that's over and done with. Still haven't surrendered a 300-yard passer this season, though. But that may change the next time they see Pittsburgh, as Roethlisberger and that crew has gotten it going now. So we'll see what happens with the Ravens. But the defensive side of the football, special teams, chipped in tonight, picked up a little bit of the slack for the offense. Flacco still dunking it down, still checking it down. He's got the lowest yards per completion in the league. I think they said he had the second lowest, I believe they said. I can't imagine somebody else having a lower yards per completion than Flacco. But he was at it again tonight. I don't even know if he hit 150 yards passing tonight. It's ridiculous. Probably threw it about a good 35 times and still only had about 130 yards passing. That is gross. It is really disgusting to watch. But, hey, look, they didn't turn it over. They took care of the football. They punted when they had to punt. And when they got opportunities to at least put a field goal on the scoreboard, that's what they did. So, hats off to the Ravens for finding a way to get it done, man. I mean, we laugh, we mock the Ravens offense, and you know, I joke and I kid, but I know at least 10 other teams in the league that would die to have a 6-5 record at this point of the season. Would kill to be 6-5 right now. Not 5-6, not 4-7, not 3-8, but 6-5. So we can sit here and laugh and joke and point at the Ravens and their offensive misgivings, but they found a way to get to 6-5, and if the playoffs started today, they'd be in. And I tell you what, the Ravens are one of those teams that if you let them in, Joe Flacco with the most road playoff victories in NFL history of any starting quarterback, past or present. Okay? No one goes on the road and wins playoff games like Joe Flacco. See, if you let him in with that defense and a semblance of a run game, you could get got. So I'm not saying, and look, I know, Joe has been funky this year. I get it. And he's got no targets. None whatsoever. I get it. Let those boys in if you want to, though. Somebody could be in trouble. And I'm not saying no names. I ain't talking to Kansas City. I'm not talking to Tennessee and or Jacksonville. I ain't talking to nobody in particular. I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Be careful who you let in. Because you can get done in the first round, possibly in the second round of the playoffs, dealing and messing around with these Ravens. That being said, though, boy, is that offense funky. But you look at the Texans in this game, same song, same story. New week, same shit. Nacho Man, Tommy Savage, at it again. He did it again, turning the football over and doing it. The reaction of Bill O'Brien. The reaction of Bill O'Brien at the end of the game when he threw the last interception, priceless. Like, you can't bottle that kind of stuff up. He wanted to throw the headset, the play calling sheet. He was like, God damn it. Effing Tom. I told his dumb ass. Throw it to D-Hop. Throw it to Nuke. What is he doing? In any event, the defense, which has been much maligned this season without their horses up front. No J.J. Watt, obviously. No Whitney Merciless. No Brian Cushing. They actually stood their ground. And again, it's the Ravens. I don't want to give them too much credit. It was the Ravens on offense. But you still got to go out and stop the team in front of you. They did that tonight. And they gave their team an opportunity to win this game. And the only thing they didn't do was create any turnovers. But they got off the field on most third down situations. They held the Ravens to some field goals in this game, 3 to be exact. They gave themselves a shot. And they defended some short fields, a couple of turnovers. They gave the Texans an opportunity, numerous opportunities to try to steal this game. I mean, the game was 20-16 for at least 2 possessions. They gave them opportunities. And they got the stop at the end, forced a field goal, got the football back, no timeouts, did what they needed to do. Down 7, they gave the team an opportunity to go tie the game up. What did Tom Savage do? Throw another interception. They gave him the football. Back to the offense. Down 20-16. What does Tom Savage do? Get strip sacked, forced fumble by Terrell Suggs. Recovered by the Ravens. I mean, they did what they could do defensively. They gave it a run. Nuke. Over 100 yards receiving. Throw in the pass interference that he created that set up the first touchdown. He was outstanding. They gave it a run. But when you're as deficient as the Texans are and have been for years now at the quarterback position, there's only so much you can accomplish. There's only so much you can do. And as good as they've been on defense, they're hurting on defense. And their defense has been able to carry them in the past. They're not capable of doing that right now because they don't have it. You saw Clowney out there balling. But he's a one-man wrecking crew when it comes to getting to the quarterback right now. Who else is helping him? He didn't have any help. I love what they've got at linebacker. I think Zach Cunningham's going to be just fine. Love Bernardrick McKinney. Clowney was balling out, but who else gets to the quarterback? There's only so much you can do. Only so much you can do. So they gave it a run tonight, but they just don't have enough. And they really miss Will Fuller because he changes. And I've said this 1,000 times. I'm going to continue to say it. And I told you when he missed the first couple of games of the season, I said when he comes back, shit's going to change. And what happened when he came back? And now it helped that Deshaun Watson was out there playing out of his gourd. But when he came back, shit changed. Guys were catching touchdowns left and right because you can't double nuke. You can't focus on nuke, or else Will Fuller will get over the top and hurt you. At one point, the man had 7 catches on the season, 5 of which were touchdowns. I mean, come on. Stop. Stop. He changes things. You take him out of the lineup, and then now you're just defending one guy. So, in any event, Ravens get it done 23-16 over the Texans. Move to 6-5. Take the Bills out of the playoff picture. Insert their name in the playoff picture as the 6th and final playoff participant in the AFC at this current moment, as the 2nd and final wild card in the AFC at 6-5. So we'll see if the Ravens are able to hold on to that wild card berth and remain a team in the postseason once the season has reached its conclusion. Meanwhile, for the Texans, they're still technically on that in the hunt graphic, but they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not good enough to make the playoffs at the quarterback position. They've got too many injuries. They're not a team of destiny. So they dropped to 4-7, and for all intents and purposes, they're done. Let's get to some comments, though. David Johnson says, it speaks volumes about how systemic racism has permeated every aspect of our society. Texans would rather prove a point than try to win. I'm assuming that is a Colin Kaepernick shot fired. I don't know if he could actually help them because, again, bringing in a quarterback isn't like any other position in football. Like, you could bring in a linebacker on Thursday and he could start on Sunday. You know, you can bring in a corner on Wednesday and he can start on Thursday. You can't bring in a quarterback on Tuesday and have him start on Sunday or the next Sunday after that. Like, it takes a lot to be a quarterback in this league. There's a lot to digest. There's a lot going on. You can't just say, hey, give him a wristband, send him in the huddle, and we'll call the play, because even that still is a lot to ask of a quarterback. Getting lined up, hand signals, how do we react to no huddle? I mean, there's so many layers of being a quarterback that you need a guy in your system, in your camp, with your team, running plays, at least being at practice for at least a couple of months to have him be comfortable. I mean, you saw the 49ers trade for Jimmy G. We still haven't seen him start a game yet. They've had a bye week, and they still didn't start Jimmy G. You know why? Because they still aren't comfortable putting him out there. It takes time. And unless you have to start a guy because of necessity, which the Texans didn't feel the need to go out and get a quarterback, then I'm not going to kill the Texans. You know, I felt like a team like the Titans, when they had a rash of injuries at the quarterback position, and they decided, we're going to go out and go get Brandon Whedon. Come on, really? Whedon doesn't even fit your system, and he stinks. Why not just go get Kaepernick if that's the case? You know, and maybe there are some ties there. Maybe one of your offensive coaches worked with Whedon at one of his various stops around the league, and he's familiar with the terminology and the playbook. Okay, I get that. You know, but, you know, there are other teams that I looked at and said, okay, this is nonsense. The Texans, they weren't necessarily one of them, but I don't think Kaepernick helps. But that's nor here nor there. Andrew Kim says, offense actually added some trick plays to keep the offense going. Too bad Flacco couldn't connect on some of those deep throws to Wallace, but the defense held on once again. Even the deep throws to Wallace, it's not like he was open by 3 steps. You know, the one across the field where he was one-on-one, if Joe gives him an opportunity, maybe he comes down with that one. But I thought the corner was right there, you know, in his hip pocket. You know, Joe Flacco used to be one of the most accurate deep ball throwers, but they're just struggling in every aspect offensively right now, you know. And they got cute a couple of times, and it worked for them in this game, but they've got to be able to push the football down the field, man. This is getting out of control at this point now. Anything 3rd and 6 and longer, and these guys are pretty much cooked on 3rd downs. It's got to be 3rd and 4 or less for them to convert on most 3rd down situations, just because everything is 5 yards and underneath. You know, even their out routes aren't getting to the sticks. I mean, how many times did we see guys run comebacks and outs just a little short of the sticks and end up in a 4th and short situation? That's how they ended up in a 4th and 1. But in any event, like you said, defense, once again, did enough, and that's all that matters. BE says, Hopkins have Ravens for dinner. Wow, 7 catches, 125. He also says, with this Ravens win, I finished 15-1. Andrew Kim says, nobody was going to stop Hopkins on the Ravens defense, but wondering why Humphrey wasn't playing any snaps. Probably wasn't going to matter, but Jimmy Smith was exposed brutally. I mean, again, I'm not going to kill Jimmy Smith for getting done in by one of the best receivers in the league. Look, Nuke does everybody in, just about. So, but I do wonder why we didn't see the young rook, Humphrey, in there. Didn't he get a pick last week versus Green Bay? Like, I thought we would have saw a little bit more of him. I saw him on special teams. I didn't see him out there too often at the cornerback position. In any event, Pepe the YouTuber says, just say that Savage was ass and call it a night. Well, you said it, not me. Torres the Goat Grant says, how many yards did Hopkins have again? My man Jimmy was getting cooked today, shaking my head. It was something along the lines of 7 for $125. I think my man BE gave that information out. I know it was 7 for over $1. $125 sounds about right, so we'll go with that. But that's Nuke, man. Nuke's a beast, and it wasn't all on Jimmy. That PI down the field, that was Brandon Carr. So I think he spread it out. He's an equal opportunity offender anyway. You know, anybody could get it at any time. I doubt it was all on Jimmy. Some of that probably came on Brandon Carr on the other side of the field too. So let's not put it all on Jimmy, guys. Anwar Muhammad says, Marty Morningwig offensive play calls are so conservative. Where is the aggression? I don't think he trusts the offensive line, 1, and 2, I don't think he trusts the receivers. So we've been asking that with a number of teams this year. I don't know if you've noticed that, but Buffalo just fired their offensive coordinator. And we've been asking, where is the offensive creativity there. Why aren't they pushing the football down the field in Buffalo? Oh, they don't have any weapons. Okay, all right, yeah. Same problem in Baltimore. The Denver Broncos just fired Mike McCoy as their offensive coordinator. Oh, they don't have a quarterback. Oh, okay. Offensive line problems. Yeah, I mean, same shit. Different city, different team, same shit. Okay? I mean, we ask these offensive coordinators to do things like make magic out of nothing. Like, what do you want these guys to do? I mean, I get it. You want to push the football down the field, but got to have protection for that. Got to have a quarterback that's accurate for that. Got to have some receivers that create separation for that. Like, you can't just call plays just to call plays. These coordinators are at practice every day. They see these guys. They know the limitations. There's a reason they don't do certain things. You're right. It is what it is. Like, there's a reason the Buffalo Bills on 3rd and 9 are throwing a swing screen to Shady McCoy and punting the football. Or on third and 8, checking it down underneath to Tavares Cadet for 5 yards and punting. What do you want them to do? I mean, it's tough. You know, the Bears. What do you want them to do? The Dolphins. They've got a ton of talent, but I don't think they trust the quarterbacks. I guess. I mean, I don't know. And I think the Ravens, same thing. I don't know if Martin Mordenwig trusts the offensive line. You've had Ronnie Stanley in and out of the lineup. He got injured tonight, came back later on in the game. But you had to move your guard over to tackle Hurst. I mean, like, you don't want to leave Hurst out on the island against Clowney. Like, so that makes you even more nervous as a play caller. Like, okay, probably shouldn't take a 5-step drop here and ask John Hurst to block Jadeveon Clowney one-on-one by himself. Like, probably not a good idea. So all of these things affect play calling is basically what I'm getting at. Now, I'm not absolving Marty Morningwig of all wrongdoing, and I'm not trying to justify him being ultra-conservative as a play caller, but there are reasons why these play callers do some of the things that they do. Not all of it is justified, but a lot of it is warranted. There are reasons why. Buffalo pregame says, this game knocked the Bills out of the playoffs for this week, but I predicted the exact score for this game in my scores league. Still wish Houston won. Bills needed this. Just know this. If you want to get into playoffs, go win some games. Don't rely on other teams. I've said this numerous times. The Bills put themselves in this position by playing quarterback musical chairs for a week and throwing away a game on the road against the Chargers that was very winnable. If Tyrod Taylor starts that game, I can assure you, you don't lose 54-24. Do you win? I don't know. But the Chargers aren't world beaters. And Tyrod Taylor could have went out there, had them in that ball game late with a chance to win, and that's all you can ask for on the road. But instead, they decided Nathan Peterman was the guy for the job. He throws 5 first-half picks. You're down 37-0 at halftime. The rest is history. So at this point, don't look around for the Texans to do your dirty work. Don't look around for the Browns to help you out. Go win football games. Let the chips fall where they may, and hope you've done enough when the season's over to get into the playoffs. Savage Raven says, this game was awful. Jimmy Smith got exposed. Gosh, you guys are really hard on Jimmy Smith. Again, those 7 catches for $125 weren't all. I can assure you. I'm thinking of an out route that came up a yard short on 3rd and 7. That was on Brandon Carr. I know Carr got a couple of those catches on him. Now, granted, there were enough catches on Smith that you can say, yeah, he got worked a little bit, but that's still nuke. Andrew Kim says, glad Jefferson and Levine got their first INTs this season tonight, though. Suggs was the only pass rush getting to Savage mostly. Suggs is always the only pass rush getting to the quarterback, unless Judon gets there by some kind of happenstance. It's always Terrell Suggs. That's the problem with the Ravens defense. If there's one big problem defensively, is that you don't generate enough pressure. If it's not Suggs, then who? He's got 9.5 sacks. I'd venture to say the next closest guy doesn't have more than 6. And that guy's probably Matt Judon. And I don't know how many sacks he has. But the next closest guy, I can assure you, doesn't have any more than 6. And that's generous. It may be more like 5.5, 5. But it's Terrell Suggs or no one pretty much getting pressure on the quarterback. The one thing I do like about Dean Pease, though, he's not afraid to blitz. He's not afraid to send. There was one play where he just said, F it. I'm sending the whole crew. They all stood up around the line of scrimmage, and I said, all of y'all ain't coming. Dean Pease said, the hell they not. Now, they didn't get there. Terrell Suggs almost got there, and Savage did a great job of manipulating the pocket, moving, eluding the rush, and that was that same out route that I was talking about that was completed to Nuke on the sidelines, a yard short of the first down with Carr in coverage. But he's sitting about 7 dudes on that play. Duron Johnson says, I'm so glad that my Ravens got the W tonight. Good luck Thursday. Appreciate it, bro. We're going to need it. Jazzy E was good. He says, why my Texans have to suffer with Tom Tragic? No! Yeah, man. Nacho Man. Tommy Savage. Back at it again. And it's a shame that Deshaun Watson got hurt. It really is. Eric Villa says, D-Hop jersey was ripped like he was in a fight. Man, they were holding the hell out of that guy. And they wonder why he gets so many OPIs. Dude, he's so physical. It's almost like how it was with Shaq in the NBA when he played. How he would just get molested. Guys would slap him, push him, do all kinds of nonsense, and they would get mad when Shaq would start being extra physical, throwing bowls and throwing his weight around. And he would get mad because he'd get fouled all the time, but they wouldn't call it because he's so big. You know, when guys are slapping you all on your arm, your wrist, you tend not to get the call because you're so big. Because, and it's the same thing with Cam Newton. We've seen that numerous times. I remember the first game of the season last year against Denver where he takes a vicious shot to his helmet, right up under his chin. I don't even know how he didn't get knocked out. But remember, he had a concussion. He stayed in the game. The league investigated and all of that nonsense. And they didn't throw a flag. It's because he's Cam Newton and he takes shots and he's big. And so the same shots he takes, if any of those shots were even remotely delivered to a Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers or any of these pocket passers, Drew Brees, you're looking at a 15-yard penalty. I mean, if they even got close to doing something like that to one of those guys, 15-yard penalty. But because it's Cam Newton and he runs all the time and he puts his body on the line, we'll let those slide because he's a runner a lot of times. Well, he wasn't a runner that time. He got smashed in the chin. He wasn't a runner then. Throw the flag. And that's what they do to Nuke. He's so big. He's so physical at the stem of his routes. When he's running comebacks, when he's running stops and hitches, guys want to grab him and tug him and fight with him, and he's throwing them off of him, and he's picking up OPIs because guys are so physical with him because he's so physical that they feel like they've got to match his physicality with physicality. And you saw his jersey. It looked like those old 1980s tearaway jerseys. It's ridiculous. His shoulder pad was all up here. Half of his jersey was up here. It was torn on the other side. I'm like, what are these, the NBA Nike jerseys all of a sudden where they tear at the seams? Man, it's physical out there with him every week. It's crazy. And the man still puts up numbers. Michael Thompson says, did you see that D lineman taunting Savage? LOL. Yeah, at the very end, he talking to him after they picked him up. Tom wouldn't try to hear that shit, man. You know what? That's the funniest thing that I see when I watch these games is, man, there's no shortage of shit talk out on the football field, man. It's mega trash talk going on. And you know what? That's got to be the worst. You throw the back-breaking interception to lose your team the game, and some asshole comes up to you talking some shit. Yeah, you just want to punch him in the face at that point. Like, you know, Tom, all he can do is walk. I mean, because he's Tom Savage. What the hell is he going to say? He can't say shit. It's not like he's Aaron Rodgers or somebody that's got pedigree that has done it for a long time in this league. What is he going to say? He's Tom Savage. All he can do is walk his ass back to the bench and sit down and wallow in his own misery. John Perez says, off subject here, couldn't go through the show without asking you what's your thoughts on the Grizzlies firing David Fizdale today, and also what happened to the Texans going forward. On the Grizzlies front, I really don't know what to say about that, because listening to all the reports, I've read a ton of stories and articles today, as I was surprised, as many of you were. It seems like there's been a rift between he and Marc Gasol for quite some time, and then, he got benched against the Nets last night in the fourth quarter, and we lost the game by 10, and he didn't play. And what sense does that make? Your best players on the bench in the fourth quarter when it's winning time? So there was some kind of divide there with those two, maybe a difference in philosophy, whatever the case may be. In the NBA, organizations always choose players over coaches. It's always been that way. It'll always be that way. It's a player-driven league. And so we're the Grizzlies. We're in Memphis. No one wants to come to Memphis to play basketball. That's just the fact of the matter. And so when you got a superstar like Marc Gasol, you got to keep him happy. And if he doesn't like the coach, then you got to get rid of the coach. And I loved Fizz. I thought he was doing the best that he could with the situation that he was put in. We've got a ton of injuries. We thought our roster was a lot better. It's not. And when you have injuries, it kind of highlights that, how bad the roster is. We've got a lot of money tied up in like 5 players. It's not a good situation. And at some point, and this may be it, there's a rebuild coming. And the possibility of trading a Marc Gasol, that may come up. I'm not going to turn this into an NBA show. I'm not going to turn this into a Grizzlies show. But in any event, I was surprised, to say the least. And you also asked what's going to happen to the Texans moving forward. Nothing. They're going to continue to lose, and they're going to win a game here and there because they play in the AFC South. So they're gonna win 1 or 2 more games this season. They're gonna finish up at 6-10, maybe 5-11, and then you keep it moving. The Soundwave 92 says Rivers on a hot streak is bad, but it's the Chargers defense that is scary. With how badly KC has shit the bed, especially last week, Chargers might win the West. It's very possible. I think the Chargers, to me, have the best opportunity to snag that division away from the Chiefs. I'm not willing to pronounce the Chiefs dead yet, but I would like to see the Chargers come and take that division from them because I think they can do more with it than the Chiefs can. But that being said, I don't want to talk about the Chargers until they get to 500. They're still 5-6. You want to talk about playoffs and winning the division, get back to 500, and then we can have that discussion. Dark Steeler 1995 says, you can't win with Nicolas Cage as your quarterback. Dude is a shit stain at quarterback, and him and his bad acting at QB need to go. Andrew Kim says, that Flacco run at the end, got the first, was so ironic when he still can't slide. How many times a game does he slide and mess up the knee brace? God damn it, Joe. Stop doing that. It's ridiculous. Dark Sealer 1995 says, no one fears the Ravens. They beat god-awful teams but don't have a chance in hell of beating the Steelers or Patriots. Flacco looks washed up. His accuracy is bad on the deep ball. I beg to differ. Playoffs are a different story, but I don't think they're good enough either to beat either one of those teams. But any given Sunday, the one team that the Patriots struggle with annually, even when they beat them, it's a struggle. Baltimore Ravens. So, I don't know. Pepe the YouTuber says, I remember when Savage took over for Osweiler and I got all excited. Now I'm just disappointed. Well, it was because anything was better than Osweiler at that point. You know what I mean? And look, there's a saying. Everyone's favorite guy in town is the backup quarterback until he gets in the game. A backup is a backup for a reason. And I don't know why, as fans, we do this. I stopped doing this a long time ago because I learned the hard way. But I don't know why fans tend to do this so much. But they love that backup quarterback. Man, we need to put in fill in the blank. And I see Redskins fans do it all. We should put in Colt McCoy. Why? What are you trying to accomplish? Colt McCoy is Colt McCoy for a reason. Colt McCoy is a backup for a reason. Why? Nathan Peterman was a backup for a reason. Why? The Broncos found out very quickly that Brock Osweiler was a backup for a reason. Promptly benched him and put in Paxton Lynch. Got hurt, and now they're back to their original starter. Backups are backups for a reason. Oh, Jay Cutler stinks. Put in Matt Moore. Why? Matt Moore's a backup. What is Matt Moore going to do? Come in and lose you the game 40-0 on national television? He's Matt Moore. It's a backup quarterback. Yeah, Jay Cutler stinks, but at least he's a starter. It's hilarious. It's laughable. I see it every week in every town. Put in the backup, okay? And then what? What do you do after he stinks and he sucks and you realize, damn, he's not much better than a starter? What do you do then? Will you put in the backup to the backup? I don't know. The Soundwave 92 says, you think the Ravens can make enough noise for a wild card? Honestly, only had the Jags and one of the AFC West teams taking the 2 slots. Yeah, I think the Ravens can get in. And right now at 6-5, they've got as good a shot as anybody to secure one of those wild cards. So I definitely think they can make enough noise because defensively they do enough. And they play in the AFC North, which is one of the worst divisions in football. So all they've got to do is beat Cincinnati again, which they have them at home, which Cincinnati's playing much better. That's another team to look out for as they're starting to hit their offensive stride. Joe Mixon's got the football a ton last game, which that's always a good thing. So, but they just got to beat Cincinnati once more. They got Pittsburgh once more. They may not win that game. And the Steelers, by the time they play them, if that's the I don't think the Steelers have the Browns in the last game of the season, but I believe they got the Browns once more. That's a winnable game if they have the Browns once more. I don't think they've played them twice already. So that's 2 winnable games right there in the division. So you got to like the Ravens' chances. Got to like their chances. BE says, Flacco was 20 of 32 for 141 yards. I told you he didn't hit $150. I told you he didn't hit $150. It's ridiculous, man. Let me pull out my calculator real quick, man. That is insane. So 32 attempts, 141 yards. I mean, that's ridiculous. Which averages out to 4.4 yards per attempt. That is absolutely gross. That is just disgusting. Nasty, and it's vile is what it is. The Soundwave 92 says, I'm still in shock how the Chiefs have fallen off this week. Losing to the Bills, regardless of how bad their situation is, speaks plenty to how bad things have gotten. Absolutely. Captain Spartan 04 says, I'm not scared of this Ravens team. Texas still scored 16 on them, and the passing offense is nothing. And if you stop the run, they literally will probably be like a fish out of water. I can't disagree with anything you said, but you said 16 as if 16 is a lot. It's not a lot of points. Now, they still got Nuke. You heard of him? Still, like, really good. And he's one of those receivers that no matter who his quarterback is, sort of like Larry Fitzgerald, doesn't matter who his quarterback is, still going to eat you up, still going to have over 1,000 yards receiving because he's Nuke. So it's still tough to stop them from scoring because they got Nuke. So just thought you might want to know that. But John Perez says, time for the Texans to turn to Braxton Miller. At least he has quarterback experience, even though he made the switch, which I honestly questioned at first. And maybe he can come in and run a little read option for him, man. Who knows? Gregory Lightbody says, what do you think the Redskins – we'll talk about that tomorrow during the Redskins report. John Perez says, do you think the Texans are starting to sour on Bill O'Brien? They were already sour on Bill O'Brien. Remember, he was like this close to getting fired before the season started in the offseason. But every year he found a way to win the division, and it's hard to fire a guy after he won the division. So this year they're not going to win the division. They're not going to make the playoffs, and this is going to be the year that he finally gets fired. So we'll see what happens. I like Bill O'Brien, though. Is he the best coach in the world? No. But he wears his emotions on his sleeve, and I think he's a good offensive coordinator. And we'll see what happens and if he's able to land on his feet somewhere else. I think he'll actually get another head coaching job somewhere else. I think around league circles, he's highly respected and regarded as one of the better offensive minds and one of the better coaches in the league, believe it or not. And so I think if he gets fired, it wouldn't shock me if he landed on his feet in that same offseason with another job elsewhere as a head coach. But we'll see what happens. Enrique Valencia says, Joe Flacco must go. Regress to the point where Nathan Peterman might be an upgrade over Joe. Nah. Not a rookie, man. Mazer_12 says, sup, Louie. It's been a bit, but this one hurt. We need pass rushing help. Clowney can't do it all on his own. And yes, Yates needs to start next week. Savage needs to go. See? There we go. TJ Yates, Tyler Jonathan Yates. All of a sudden, Tyler Jonathan Yates is a beast. You know why? Because we want Nacho Man Tommy Savage out of there. And what is Tyler Jonathan Yates going to come in and do? Stink it up, lose football games. But he's better than Savage, right? That's what fans do, man. I mean, let's be honest, man. He's Tyler Jonathan Yates. I mean, seriously, he's TJ Yates. What is he going to do? We've seen TJ Yates before. He's TJ Yates. What is he going to do? Like, that perfectly speaks to my point about what fans do. Like, the next guy on the bench is always the best guy. The next guy. Let's put that guy in. Because he can't be worse than the guy that we already have in. Except when you put him in and he's worse than the guy that you already had in. We watched the Jets do this. It was funny. I was talking to Jets fans last year, and when they were just playing musical chairs at the quarterback position. Hey, put in that guy. They didn't even know the quarterback's names anymore. It had gotten to the point where they stopped knowing the quarterback's name. Hey, put that quarterback in. He can't be any worse than that guy. Okay. So they put in the next guy. And they put that guy in. Hey, put in Hackenberg. You can't be any worse than this guy. I never got to see Hackenberg, but we see it all the time in this league. It's laughable to me. It's hilarious. Captain Spartan 04 says, why do people still bring up Joe Flacco in the 2012 playoff performance? Because he won a Super Bowl and they had one of the greatest playoff runs we've ever seen. And that's what everybody's clinging to. They're waiting for that guy to come back. He may never come back. But they know he's in there somewhere. And that's why everybody brings it up, because they're like, if we can ever get that semblance of Joe again, this Ravens team is dangerous. Well, in order to get any semblance of that Joe, you know what you got to do? Get Joe some weapons. Rashad Perriman, Jeremy Maclin, who I actually like, but he hasn't done diddly squat in Baltimore. And, oh, by the way, he can't stay healthy, but that's another discussion for another day. Mike Wallace. Boyle. What are we doing here, guys? Seriously, what are we doing here at receiver? They said that only the Bills and the Bears, two teams I've been crying about all year long about lack of talent at the skill positions, have less receiver production than the Ravens this year. But yet, everybody wants to kill Flacco. Now, again, I'm a little bit of a Flacco apologist. I'll admit, you guys know that. But Flacco hasn't been great. He's missed some throws. Guys have been open and he hasn't hit them. I'll grant you that. But what the hell do you want Flacco to do? What do you want him to do? He's got no help. Anyway, Mazer_12 says, Nuke is a monster. Hashtag nothing new. Savage Raven says, I miss Gary Kubiak in Baltimore. Yep. Enrique Valencia says, remember when mostly everyone was calling Clowney a bust? Never understood that talk. I told everybody it's just injuries. Let the man get healthy first, and if he doesn't perform, then you can call him a bust. But don't destroy a man, tear him down because he was injured. Remember Matthew Stafford when he first got in the league? How he was hurt every year? Couldn't stay healthy to save his life? Now look at Matthew Stafford. I mean, you can't judge a guy because he's injured. To me, availability is the best ability, obviously. Because it doesn't matter how talented you are or how much ability you have. If you're not available, then you're never able to show what you can truly do. But you got to give a guy an opportunity. You can't just call him a bust because he's not playing because he's injured. If he ever gets healthy and you know he's talented, then you may actually see the talent one day. So I never understood it either. Marcus Marigoda says, how do you feel about David Fizdale being fired? I talked about that briefly already. We're so bad. You know, it sucks because we started off the season so well. We were so optimistic, and to hear about all of the dissension that was behind the scenes that we didn't know anything about, and to see it kind of all certain, and this is what losing does. It doesn't matter what sport. Losing breeds ugliness. And all of the things, and you've heard this a number of times, and it is the honest to God truth. Winning is the best deodorant because it will clean up any stench that you have in your locker room. If there's dissension, guys don't like each other, guys don't care for the coach, but you're winning, everyone shuts the hell up and keeps the party going. Keeps the train moving because you're winning. The second you start losing, we start bringing up all the shit that we have problems with. And David Fizdale and Marc Gasol didn't get along. He didn't play him in the fourth quarter the other night against the Nets. Lose the game. And then everything comes to the forefront. So, yeah, it is what it is. Cloud says, D-Hop is in the top 5 in the league. Might even be in the top 3. I made a list of the top receivers. And he's on the list, I can tell you that. Captain Spartan 04 says, it feels weird that everyone from the 2014 draft is already playing 4 years in the NFL. I remember being super excited for that draft like it was yesterday for my Steelers and the players. Man, time flies. It definitely does. Stevie D says, AFC is terrible this year. It's going to be Steelers and Pats. Everyone else looks crappy. Chargers might make it interesting, though. We'll see. I've already said a number of times I think it's going to be the Patriots and the Steelers in the AFC Championship game, and everything else is a foregone conclusion. But there could be some interesting teams that throw a wrench into that plan, and I've already mentioned the teams, Chargers being one of those teams potentially if they can get in. Stevie D says, DeAndre Hopkins' jersey looked like he tried to get in between Krabs and Aqib Talib fight. Yeah, his jersey was ridiculous tonight, man, and that just goes to show you and he still caught that pass, which is crazy. Just how physical he is. Andrew Kim says, apparently Humphrey tweaked something in his leg. Savage walked out on the press conference, LOL. I would too if I threw that game-sealing INT. He was pretty dejected at the end of the game, so it wouldn't shock me to find out that he walked out on that presser. When you stink and you know, and he knew he's playing for a contract. This is it for him. And someone's going to sign Tom Savage to a backup contract. But he was playing to try to start somewhere. And he pretty much sealed his fate. Not just tonight, but with his play all season long. But there's nothing worse than performing like this on the big stage. There's no other game in town. Everybody's watching. And you throw a bat-breaking pick like that, he pretty much sealed his fate. as a starter in this league. He wasn't good enough to start anyway, but now everyone knows that for sure. Cloud says, Lou, off topic, what team did you pick to go to the Super Bowl if you would pick two? Well, I think at the beginning of the year, before the season started, I picked Pittsburgh and Green Bay. Obviously, Green Bay's in a tough spot with no Aaron Rodgers, so that's probably not going to happen. Steelers still have a good shot at making it happen. But if I had to revise that right now, I still don't know who's going to do it in the NFC because I want to see what the Eagles do these next 3 weeks. Seattle, Rams. I want to see what the Eagles are made of because I really think the Eagles are the class of the NFC. But I'm going to find out how good they are, and then you don't know how they're going to react because they aren't a battle-tested team. They don't have a lot of guys on their team with playoff experience, so you don't know how they're going to react when they get there. So kind of hard for me to say right now. Check back with me in about 3 weeks. I'll probably have a more definitive answer for you then. But that's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Monday Night Football overtime. Ravens avoid overtime by picking off Nacho Man Tommy Savage in the late stages of this game to secure the 23-16 victory, get them to 6-5, a game over 500, and into the final wild card spot of the AFC playoffs, knocking out the Bills for the time being. So big win for the Ravens. Pretty much the end of the line for the Texans in terms of playoff talk. They weren't going to make it anyway, but this game pretty much writes them off at 4-7 with this loss. The minute they lost Deshaun Watson, they were done this season. And so we'll see what happens with Bill O'Brien at the end of the year, what happens with their GM, Rick Smith. There could be a big shakeup in Houston coming this offseason. Could be a lot of change, a lot of turnover with that organization. We shall see. We thought that was going to be the case last year. Nothing happened. It could be the same case this year. But this year with no playoffs and 5-11 staring them in the face, I think you're going to see some changes made this year in Houston. And so it's going to do it for your man Louie T. More content. We're back like cook crack. And so, we're going to keep this party going. The Redskins report live tomorrow, winners and losers Wednesday, Thursday night football, Cowboys, Redskins, and so forth and so forth. And down the stretch we go. So Ravens get the win. They're now 6-5. Texans drop to 4-7. And we're out of here. So for all of you out there watching, thanks again for joining me on this live feed. Remember, we're changing the game, one live feed at a time. Thank you. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks again. Have a good one.
Okay, pizza, check. Cold drink, check. New Jersey, check. Louie T Network, check. Okay, I'm ready, let's go. Yeah, I'm so happy football back, I'm headed home in a rush now. Yeah, I'm so hyped, I can see my defense rush now. Yeah, I got 20 wings that I'm about to bust down to make me put my 2 arms up. I'm hollering touchdown.